Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, there's this article from Vanity Fair that basically covers the entirety of Ezra Miller and his downward spiral of all the stuff that we know of. And I was thinking about doing it into a video, but it would probably be like a 30-minute plus video. So, I figured, why not do a live stream? That way, if people want to find it, they can. People want to join the discussion live, they can. Before we get started, please leave a like, share out the stream as much as possible. These two things actually help the channel get noticed more, as do views. All of that really helps. So when I say like, comment, subscribe, share, I really mean it, folks, because it does help get the channel noticed. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into this article by Ezra Miller, or about Ezra Miller, rather. So there's one, he's one of Hollywood's brightest stars. As I said, I do not respect him enough to use his preferred delusional pronouns. So yes, he's one of Hollywood's brightest stars. Not really. And most troubled actors amid safety concerns and anxiety over the fate of a $200 million movie, Vanity Fair unearths disturbing new details in a saga of grandiose sermons, guns, drugs, and alleged assaults and grooming. Ezra Miller's Messiah delusions. This dude literally thinks he's a messiah of some sort. So Ezra Miller did not, to put it mildly, invoke his right to remain silent. This past March, the actor was arrested in a tiki bar called Margarita Village in Hilo, Hawaii. After shouting profanities, spitting in a patron's face, and grabbing a microphone from a woman singing karaoke to Shallow from A Star is Born, Miller claimed to have been accosted by a Nazi. Wow, folks. And to have evidence. In fact, one of the first things you hear the actor say in the 3-minute police body cam video that circulated after the arrest is something the officers had likely never heard from a disorderly dive bar patron before. I film myself when I get assaulted for NFT crypto art. Does this sound like a sane person to you, folks? I mean, seriously. And, yeah. So once outside, Miller, sweaty and disheveled in a black suit jacket, burgundy pants, and a red tie, barks at the cops to state their full name and badge numbers. That is a right. You are allowed to know their full names and badge, or their names and badge numbers. Don't know about full names. But when one attempts to search Miller's pocket, the actor says twice, rapid fire, "I'm transgender non-binary. I don't want to be searched by a man." And being called sir, the actor responds, "That is an act of intentional bigotry and a technical hate crime." This is him trying to get out of trouble, folks. Miller, whose pronouns are unimportant to me, registers their objection, or his objection, to being unlawfully persecuted for a crime of no designation. Wow. Disorderly conduct, harassment, disturbing the peace. You should have told us that, or when he has pre-existing nerve damage from police handcuffs and expands on the Nazi assault, you should have told us that instead of running away. An officer replies placidly, "We could have taken care of everything real quick, but you wanted to play the game." Sources says the actor verbally and emotionally abused those around them and referred to himself alternately as Jesus and the devil. What? When the police empty Miller's pockets, they find styrofoam Nerf bullets and place them in a plastic bag, along with a single accessory linking the person in cuffs to the movie that their acclaimed that his acclaimed career, as well as the $200 million of Warner Brothers money, is riding on, a ring emblazoned with the DC Comics superhero character. By now, Miller seems to have burned out his rage. The flash ring means a lot to me, the actor says quietly. It's very valuable. I mean, seriously, folks, this is absolutely insane. That arrest was just one turn in a downward spiral so confusing and troubling that even old friends have difficulty parsing the chaos. What's clear is that Miller has been endangering not just his career, but also his safety and allegedly that of others, in increasingly plain sight for the last 2 years. Since 2020, the actor has been accused of crimes and abuses spanning 6,000 miles and 2 oceans. Also, 4 countries. Throwing a chair that hit a woman in the forehead, threatening a couple in their bedroom, and stealing their wallet and passport in Hawaii, on top of the incident at Margarita Village, choking 2 strangers in Iceland, and breaking into a neighbor's home in Vermont to steal alcohol, which resulted in a felony charge. In June, 2 protection orders were issued against Miller. The first filed in tribal court in North Dakota by Chase Iron Eyes, a Native American businessman, and his wife, Sarah Jumping Eagle, on behalf of their 18-year-old Takata Iron Eyes, who goes by Gibson. They accuse Miller of grooming, brainwashing, and emotionally abusing the teenager, a non-binary indigenous activist Miller met when Iron Eyes was just 12 years old. Miller was in his 20s, just so you all know, during this time. The second order was requested by a mother in Massachusetts. The tribal court put a temporary order in place, but ultimately dismissed the request for a permanent one. And the parents say they withdrew their request for custody, believing the odds were stacked against them, which is truly tragic when a child of yours decides to, or is under obvious influence of a psycho. But yeah. The second order was requested by a mother in Massachusetts, claiming that Miller's interest in her own non-binary 12-year-old, what the fuck, made her and the child uncomfortable in incidents between February and June of this year. The actor denies the allegations. Seriously, what the hell is this fashion statement he tries to do? Most recently, Vermont State Police were dispatched to Miller's farm with an emergency order from the Department for Children and Families. A 25-year-old woman named Anna had moved her 3 young children into the household. Though the woman has said that Ezra saved her family from an abusive situation, Miller's farm was said to be gun-ridden and unsafe for children. I saw more guns than ever, and 3 little kids running around among them, a longtime friend who visited in May tells Vanity Fair. The youngest girl picked up a bullet and put it in her mouth. The order issued on August 5th demanded that custody of Anna's kids immediately be transferred to the state. But when police arrived at the movie star's home, Anna and the children were gone. The children's father tells Vanity Fair he has not spoken to his kids since April. A court date concerning custody has been set for October in Hawaii. Warner Brothers has not commented on their marquee superhero and declined to speak for this story, but a source close to the situation says the studio and the actor agency CAA suggested Miller work with someone in crisis PR, On August 15th, Miller finally admitted that they were in the midst of an intense crisis and said in a statement, "I now understand that I am suffering complex mental health issues and have begun ongoing treatment. I want to apologize to everyone that I have alarmed and upset with my past behavior." What about those that you assaulted? Upset and alarmed, sure. But what about those you hurt, Ezra? "I am committed to doing the necessary work to get back to a healthy, safe, and productive stage in my life." That should require jail time for the assaults you committed in several countries. A source with knowledge of the situation tells Vanity Fair that the work currently consists of undergoing therapy. "I hope Ezra finds the light that he shines so brightly, because the kid I met was a remarkably magical person." Over the last 6 weeks, Vanity Fair has spoken to more than a dozen people who've crossed paths with Miller in recent years, some of whom worked closely or lived with the actor on the 95-acre farm in Vermont. Most sources described Miller's spiral as a conflagration of the mental health issues the actor has acknowledged, along with drugs, guns, and outlandish claims that has raged for more than 2 years. More than 2 years, folks. So the stuff in Iceland wasn't even the beginning, essentially. They say the actor verbally and emotionally abused those around him and referred to himself alternately as Jesus and the devil. 3 people say Miller has also wrapped the superhero he plays into his grandiose speechifying. The actor, says one source, was claiming that the Flash is the one who brings the multiverse together, just like Jesus. This man is clearly disturbed. All this has been a disturbing trajectory for Miller, whose critical breakthrough came at 19 with their deeply unnerving performance in the 2011 school massacre drama We Need to Talk About Kevin. Sheesh. 6L6, you know who's been downplaying this Poindexter Lounge channel? So sick. Never heard of them, but thank you, 6L6, for coming in. Good to see you. So, yeah. Continuing on. The following year, Miller proved their range with a charismatic turn in the coming-of-age story, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Since then, the actor has hopscotched from indies like The Stanford Prison Experiment to full-blown franchise stardom, appearing opposite Johnny Depp in the Harry Potter spin-off series Fantastic Beasts, which has grossed about $1.8 million. The Flash is due out in June of next year. In interviews, Miller has long fashioned himself as a Hollywood outsider and queer champion who blurs gender lines and seems to revel in provocation. The actor has offered journalists marijuana mid-interview and spoken in gibberish to reporters at Comic-Con while wearing silk lingerie as a sexy Super Mario Brothers. Can you believe this shit, folks? Or as a sexy Super Mario Brothers character. In 2018, in what was intended to be a jovial junket interview promoting Fantastic Beasts, Miller recounted a childhood nightmare that involved the Path Train, Beethoven, and his mother and sister's throats being slit open like pigs. The actual fuck? Miller's co-star mouthed, "Holy shit," to the camera. Though it veered dark, the actor's eccentricity initially struck many as endearing, a rarity in a town where most celebrities are on script, even off set. Miller's outspokenness about sexuality and gender identity earned them a reputation for empathy and progressiveness, as well as effusive internet titles like Queer Icon, The Hero We Need Right Now, and Our Non-Binary King. There's no such thing as a non-binary person, folks. That's just objective biological fact. Anyway, in 2018, GQ Style put Miller on its cover and wrote, "Please God, tell us the next generation of movie stars is going to be like this." What? Steven Chbosky, who wrote and directed The Perks of Being a Wallflower, as well as the novel of which it was based, hasn't spoken to Miller in 10 years. He wrote him a letter to show his support when the troubling reports started appearing, but isn't sure he sent it to the right email address. I hope Ezra finds the light that he shined so brightly back when we shot the movie. He says, because the kid I met was a remarkably magical person, and I always like to believe that the person is always in there, and I hope that he can find the help he needs. Complete Chaos, March 2020, Iceland. So yeah, folks, they're taking a lot of this out of the chronological context, but yeah, no worries. He was supposed to interview Ezra before this blew up. Smaller channel. I work in mental health. This should have never happened. Honestly, we need more mental health workers, because honestly, I also think that Ezra Miller does belong in jail despite his mental health problems, because I also am aware that when you are in a jail, they have mental health staff on call. If you are having a mental health emergency, the mental health staff will come to talk to you. But yes, Ezra Miller does deserve jail for a lot of what he has been confirmed to have done. However, alleged stuff like the grooming and whatnot, due process is necessary, folks. I honestly think, or I know I have said in previous videos, he deserves jail. He's a groomer and yada yada. But I am going to slightly walk that back, because allegedly, I do believe in due process, because especially when it comes to stuff that I went through, and I do not want to sound like a double standard, you know? So yes, I am going to acknowledge that due process does need to happen. But his wealth should not influence his case at all, nor should his celebrity. He should be tried among those who have never heard of him at all, or who can promise to maintain a completely unbiased point of view. Someone who became close with Miller about 3 years ago says the actor was open about his ebb and flow relationship with mental health. If this person is open about that, then he should have been seeking help for it since then, because he's openly acknowledged that he has problems. The actor told Hollywood Reporter in 2008, "I think for me, the times we live in are sort of choose your own adventures of mental illness, and millennials have been given a lot of intense information. People think we're crazy, and they're right." The source says that both Miller's issues and hard partying accelerated when the actor wrapped projects and had no schedule. In March 2020, when the world shut down because of the coronavirus and Fantastic Beasts halted production, Miller suddenly faced an indefinite amount of downtime. The thing is, with Ezra, there's absolutely no plan, says the source. It's complete chaos. It didn't even know that I didn't even know that we were going to Iceland until he said, let's go to Iceland. The house in Vermont contains an altar that's home to bullets, weed, sage, and flash figurines. Miller, says a source, recently demanded that Susan Sarandon come pay tribute to their altar because she didn't invite him to a dinner party. Yeesh. That's going to be later in the article. Hope they explain further into it. The first time Miller was accused of choking a stranger in Reykjavik, the incident was dismissed as a drunken altercation, but the second incident was filmed and went viral in April 2020. Variety reported that the trouble began when a woman in a bar joked about fighting Miller. The actor reacted so aggressively, putting his hands around the woman's neck and pushing her to the ground. The bartender said he locked Miller out. Later, Miller's associate says she's overheard the actor on call with Warner Brothers claiming to be the injured party. It was Warner Brothers listening and Miller spewing his poor me speech. I'm the one who was hated on. So you have this almost 30-year-old who is a partier telling Warner Brothers that he was the victim. So now we know that he was lying about it, about the incident that was recorded. He claimed to be the victim. Miller's rep says the actor was baited by a group of teens about their mixed martial arts skills. She claims the choking was not a choking, but a spontaneous reaction during which the actor went at her collarbone. 3 people, including 2 who have known Miller for over a decade, believe the outburst in Iceland were partly kindled by the emotional stress of the actor's parents' divorce in 2019. They said Miller's parents, Marta, a modern dancer, and Robert, a former book publisher, told Miller and his 2 sisters that they were divorcing after a decade of marriage. Miller's father quickly remarried, the sources say. Ezra didn't start freaking out and losing control of himself in public until after this happened, says a longtime friend. The Iceland incident happened, and then it just kept going and going and going. So if it kept on going, folks, they should have stopped it. They should have had him turned in to get help. They did not do this. So essentially, his friends who knew he was in a spiral should bear a little bit of responsibility as well, as they could have attributed to him being stopped. He's well beyond maybe. There's enough of a pattern for me and my colleagues in my clinic. Yeah. I mean, if he's beyond, then maybe he does need jail and years of psychological separation or years of psychological evaluation and treatment, and he should not be allowed in public. This man, to me, reeks of menace to society. So, yes, Miller's spokesperson dismisses the idea that the divorce was a key factor. The matters leading up to his recent mental health concerns were a combination of complex stress-related issues. Miller's father did not respond to requests for an interview for this story. His mother, approached in her front yard on Vermont in early July, said of the coverage of Miller, "The betrayal of the supposed media is stunning. It's your job to separate the false from the true." She then ended the conversation. While in Iceland, Miller was accompanied by Jasper Youngbear, a 55-year-old North Dakota medicine man the actor had hired as a spiritual advisor. Youngbear seems to have stoked Miller's outsized vision of himself. Jasper was telling Ezra that he wasn't a part of the movement. He was the movement. Yikes. That he was the next Messiah, and that the Freemasons were sending demons out to kill him, says a source who, like others who have been close to Miller, sometimes misgenders the actor, who is said to insist on they them pronouns in private. Okay, in private. So me calling him he is actually not, because this is a public discussion. Young Bear did not respond to a request for comment. Miller's rep says he is a dear friend. In an interview with the British GQ, published the same month as the Iceland chokings, Miller seemed to suggest a higher purpose, telling the writer, "My prerogative is service. I'm here to do what I can for everybody I can do it for." The rest of the interview, per the writer, was less a conversation than a string of sermons. It's not, or I'm not sure exactly what everything means, he wrote, but it sounds cool, so I nod my head along. Wow, so you enabled a mentally disturbed person to continue with their delusion. Way to go, British GQ writer. Way to go. We got there, and there was a big bow and bow and arrow cocked at the table, facing the door. Ezra was lying face down on the floor. What the? Oh my God, man. According to the insider, the actor has grown increasingly narcissistic, often choosing young people for their audience because they are more malleable. He talked to the metaverse and the medicine and how they're the Messiah and what his work is here. They say their spiritual practice is to become is to be among the people, which means party. So when in Iceland, he was out nonstop. His favorite were raves, where he'd go on benders for 2 or 3 days at a time. Sometimes Miller would extend quixotic offers to people the actor met during their travels, says a source. He was telling these kids, "You're not going to be in my band, or you're going to be in my band, and I'm going to produce your album, and you can run my music studio," where they were visual artists, or whether they were visual artists, DJs, kids that were in college, or sometimes kids who might have been homeless. He would recruit them in a period of vulnerability and promise them all these things. Nothing ever seemed to materialize. The Mountain. January 22nd, or 2022, Vermont. Since 2017, Miller has lived on the farm in Vermont, which they christened The Mountain. The property, which is surrounded by dense woods, used to be an alpaca and llama farm and features apple and blueberry orchards, 3 barns, and a modest blue-roofed house. Goats roamed the premises. The house was kind of a mess, but the friends crashing didn't care. They shot arrows and went for hikes. Miller smoked marijuana, performed chaos magic, and played Call of Duty into the early morning. Before the troubles in Iceland, the actor could be kind of generous. They shared weed, occasionally cash, and even plane tickets with buddies in need, but staying at Miller's meant abiding by the actor's rules and tolerating the long monologues. This dude is seriously twisted in so many ways, folks. I mean, just reading this, giving you or getting an inside track on Miller's mind is almost making me insane. Holy crap. From what I've seen, his mother used a permissive or indulgent parenting style. A lot of NPD and psychopathy flourishes with those types of parents. NPD, I'm guessing, neuropathological disorder. 6L6. So, yeah. Miller is said to have woven young Takata Iron Eyes into their narrative, claiming that the pair were fated to be together. A rep for Miller maintains that the actor's relationship with the activist has always been platonic. Ezra is Jesus, and Takata is an apocalyptic Native American spider goddess, and their union is supposed to bring about the apocalypse, recaps one person. And that the real version or real reason everyone is so opposed to them being together. What? Iron Eye's mother, Jumping Eagle, has heard Miller's story too. They say that they're some kind of messiah and they're going to lead an indigenous revolution. The actor himself does not have Native American ancestry, and despite being fixated on Native cultures, does not strike everyone as respectful. He professes that he walks through this world with an indigenous humility and spiritual awareness, says one indigenous insider. But point of fact, he doesn't at all, because he doesn't care. Wow. The house in Vermont contains an altar, okay, the Susan Sarandon thing, that's home to bullets, weed, sage, flash figurines, according to people who's visited this year. A lot of times he makes the women put their cell phones on the altar where they come in, and other altar or offerings, says a longtime friend. Ezra freaked out recently, demanding that Susan Sarandon come pay tribute to his altar because she didn't invite Ezra to a dinner party. Sarandon and Miller are dear friends, says Miller's rep. She adds that Miller would probably call this anecdote total bullshit if asked. Sarandon did not respond to a request for comment. In 2018, Miller came out as non-binary and polyamorous, telling Playboy about the free-loving environment he created for himself, calling it polycule, or a polycule, a portmanteau of polyamorous and molecule. This is seriously fucked up shit, people. According to three people in Miller's circle, the polycule is less a democratic society than an ever-shifting court harem of mostly young women. Yikes. Yikes. A friend of the actor says, an openly polyamorous lifestyle, that's not inherently wrong to me. But Miller's situation, in their opinion, is occasionally a patriarchal dictatorship where Ezra controls all the sex as the man and plays the women against each other, screams at them, belittles them in front of the others. So this is alleged, folks. Alleged. Narcissistic personality disorder. Thank you for clarifying that. I'm guessing Susan blocked his number. Yeah, probably. So, continuing on, the young people in the actor's orbit have included a Londoner named Rosie, who tells Vanity Fair that she is Miller's partner and Takata Iron Eyes. Yikes. Multiple people describe the actors stranding Rosie and Iron Eyes without transportation or money and humiliating them. An old friend partly blames yes men who watched it all happen, even though I have learned Ezra's such an asshole. I don't think it exonerates the people that were happy to eat off Ezra's plate until it didn't suit them anymore. I think they ended up probably accidentally being complicit in real weird abuses in power and celebrity. Miller repeatedly claimed to be acting as Iron Eye's adopted guardian, though the teen is alleged to have gone without a phone, money, underwear, socks, or even Jesus. Some people who know Miller believe the star weaponizes their gender identity in certain situations. Oh, it's very clear that he does that. Just look at that arrest video. If somebody pisses off Ezra, they're transphobic or a transphobic Nazi, says Iron Eyes' mother, Jumping Eagle, because we're trying to protect our daughter and we're trying to point out what Ezra's done to harm our daughter. Now we're transphobic, a queer associate of Miller says. To me, those are clear instances of manipulation where it's like, are you really queer? Or is that just a fun way to marginalize yourself so you can be even shittier to others? Miller's rep calls this completely untrue, saying the actor stands up for civil rights, queer or gender equality, encourages conversation and discourse, so weaponizing identity runs counter to who they are. Well, your representative obviously would say that because they're paid to. The actor's preoccupation with guns is another source of concern, though Vermont is an open carry state and the only state in the U.S. that has never required a concealed carry permit. Sources say Miller claimed to need guns for security and describes several disturbing scenes involving the actor and firearms. One friend recalls Miller pulling up to meet him with an assault weapon in the center console. What? Another person remembers Miller burning sage out of the barrel of an AR-15 and waving it around while singing. Late last year, Miller allegedly embarked on a meandering road trip with a small entourage, weapons, and a Kevlar vest. In January, in an incident that further alarmed friends and family, Miller threatened a North Carolina chapter of the Ku Klux Klan in an Instagram video. Look, if y'all want to die, I suggest just killing yourselves with your own guns, okay? The actor said, his flash ring flashing. Otherwise, keep doing exactly what you're doing right now, and you know what I'm talking about. Then, we'll do it for you, if that's what you really want. In a caption, Miller wrote, "This is not a joke, and even though I do recognize myself to be a clown, please trust me and take this seriously." What the F, man? I do remember him threatening the Ku Klux Klan. That was disturbing in itself. According to 4 people close to the situation, Miller's friends, and some say his mother, Marta, were so concerned about the firearms that they locked them in a safe, or he locked them in a safe. One person recalls the guns being locked up after a different scare. A person close to Miller claims the actor locked up the guns voluntarily. It was the ultimate betrayal to Miller, who saw most roommates scatter after the KKK episode as well. When 2 friends checked in on Miller later, the scene was pitiful, says one. We got there, and there was a big bow and arrow cocked at the table. Bow and arrow cocked at the table. That doesn't make sense, but okay. I mean, maybe a crossbow? Is that what you guys are discussing? Or cocked at the table, facing the door. Ezra was lying face down on the floor. One says, the house, Ezra's friend notes, was eerily empty. There's always people in the house, and there was just nobody there. But Ezra, sort of drunk, alone with the bow and arrow, because other people had taken the guns and locked them away, and Ezra was freaking out about it. And we need to talk about Kevin Miller's character murders classmates with a bow and arrow. What the hell? In 2008, the actor told a reporter that they kept the weapon, or that he kept the weapon from the film on their property. That's a disgusting photo. Folks, this is just beyond disturbing, and we're 40 minutes in, so I'm glad I didn't make this an actual video. I'm honestly surprised. Hey, Mike Jackson, good to see you. I'm honestly surprised he hasn't gotten brutally beaten or shot or a car accident. Hawaiians don't like surly tourists. Yeah. I mean, honestly, if he was to pull this crap in certain areas of New York State, he probably wouldn't get away with it. They would have locked his ass up in certain areas of New York State where I reside. In fact, he also would have probably gotten his ass beaten. So during this low point, Miller is said to have put their phone on speaker and begun calling people to fire them in front of small audiences, or a small audience. He fired every single person, starting from business people, his parents, just every single person, one by one, says someone who was present. Miller seemed to enjoy the calls. He'd kind of start giggling after the person would start crying or something. So he also enjoys ruining people's lives. When the two longtime friends returned to the actor's home about a week later, they say Miller had convinced their entourage, or his entourage, to give him the safe's passcode and had restocked weapons. He had a flamethrower and all these huge AK-47s lying around, says one. There were just guns everywhere. The actor's rep says all firearms and ammunition are registered, legal, and locked in an out-of-the-way location. It was February now, and two people says the actor persuaded to get a mental health evaluation. Afterward, Miller told them he'd brought a gun to meet the caseworker. As a result, been escorted by police to a medical facility. Miller boasted that he passed the evaluation with flying colors. Controlling behavior, March 2022, Hawaii. Yikes, folks, this is beyond disturbing. I mean, all of the stuff that is reading, if these are eyewitness accounts and whatnot, of course his representatives are going to deny a lot of the bad stuff. But most of the stuff that is being described fits his patterns. That's the most disturbing part of all. They seem to fit his patterns. So by the time Miller was in Hawaii this spring, the actor no longer resembled the style icon with chiseled cheekbones who once wore daring looks to Met galas. Miller was emaciated and unshowered, subsisting on energy drinks spiked with rum, gas station snacks, and medicine, according to a witness. Medicine just being a code word for whatever drugs he was deciding is medicine that week, says a person who has known Miller for over a decade. The actor's spokesperson says drug use is not the issue. Mental health is the issue. Well, then actually drug use is an issue. Drug use, especially illegal drugs, are always an issue. Miller was accompanied by Takata Iron Eyes, whom the actor met at a protest at the Dakota Access Pipeline in 2016. In Hawaii, the actor repeatedly claimed to be acting as Iron Eyes' adopted guardian, though the teen is alleged to have gone without phone, money, underwear, socks, or even shelter. The duo lived like drifters, sleeping some nights in a polyester tent pitched atop a volcano. What? There was this intensely controlling behavior of Takata, which at first I thought was for Takata's own good because she was unstable, says someone who witnessed it. But their perspective changed when Iron Eye's parents petitioned for the protective order, claiming that Miller used violence, intimidation, threat of violence, fear, paranoia, delusions, and drugs to hold sway over a young adolescent Takata. Iron Eyes has told Insider that her parents conducted a disgusting and irresponsible smear campaign against Miller, adding that the actor in multiple cases has done the right thing and stood in protection of others. Wow. Miller expressed that they had experienced a lot of trauma and weird shit in the Hollywood scene. And we were like, hell yeah, we'll help you out. Okay, that's a weird, yeah. It was a strange pairing in Hollywood, or in Hawaii, a nearly 30-year-old actor and a teenage activist. But Miller spun the relationship, says four people. The story I heard was that Iron Eyes was fleeing a family background that was intolerant of their sexuality and gender identity, says a longtime friend. That's a compelling story. In 2022, I bought it. Iron Eye's mother refutes this. We simply want Takata to be independent, safe, and happy. We don't want a 30-year-old man or person manipulating and or taking advantage of her. The situation with Iron Eye's family is not uncomplicated. Their father, Chase Iron Eyes, pled guilty to burglary and 3 other felonies in 2003. He's since reinvented himself as a political leader and taken what some believe is not entirely selfless interest in Iron Eye's activism career. In 2019, Takata rallied thousands at the Women's March in the global climate strike and appeared on Christiane Amanpour's PBS series. In December 2021, they were interviewed by Angelina Jolie as one of 17 Voices of the Year, or 17's Voices of the Year. Folks, now they're going to smear the family of Takata Iron Eyes. No other big actors couch surf. Can you imagine Momoa or Cavill pulling this crap? Honestly, no, I cannot. This is absolute insanity, folks. Absolute insanity. What this person has done, what Ezra Miller has done, would have gotten any other person fired from their Hollywood positions. Their productions would have been ceased. And the actor would have been in jail. What Ezra Miller is accomplishing right now is beyond insane, and not in a good way. This man should be arrested and doing the time for the actual things that he has done. It is clear that he has broken the law several times in different countries, and yet he has not been held accountable. Continuing on. In late March, Miller and Iron Eyes were in Hawaii at the Hilo Farmers Market, where they befriended a member of the polyamorous family on the east side of the island. The Hawaiian, or the family, has a small booth, and the actor told them that they wanted to trade their Hollywood career for a simple Hawaiian storefront. Jeez. And needed merchandise to stock. Miller also mentioned that he was with a companion who needed the actor's help, and that the pair were having issues with lodging. He acted like he was a righteous man or a man of God, and he's helping this woman out. She needs some safety, says the family patriarch, who asked not to be identified by name, and has had legal issues of his own, including a domestic abuse case that is still pending. The man and his 4 wives, in quotes, include the aforementioned Anna, invited the pair to stay on the property with them and their 4 young children. Strange things happened almost immediately. Miller returned to the house one day following what they said was a run-in with cops, complaining about being unfairly targeted. And was mansplaining about guns. Unfairly targeted and carrying an armload of toys for their kids. He bought Nerf guns for our children and was mansplaining about guns, says another wife, Kaylin. The actor recruited women to help them chainsaw guava trees in the backyard and build a sweat lodge. One day, while strolling a strip mall with the polyamorous patriarch, or polygamous patriarch, Miller spontaneously bought him a $2,000 diamond and ruby encrusted gold lion ring from Kay Jewelers. Miller proposed merging families according to the father. It was like, we should be partners forever. I want to take you all around the world, says the patriarch. And I didn't decline. I knew the kind of state he was in. The notion that the Flash was a risk was a wake-up call. Or I'm guessing at risk was a wake-up call. Kalen says that Miller expressed that he had experienced a lot of trauma and weird shit in the Hollywood scene. And we were like, hell yeah, we'll help you out. Speaking to Playboy in 2018, Miller said, I survived abuse for sure in a lot of capacities, starting from a pretty young age. About 2 weeks after they arrived, Miller and Iron Eyes suddenly left. Family members alleged that the actor took Anna, the 25-year-old wife, in the home and her 3 children with them. Okay, yeah, weird. While Miller was in Hawaii, sources say the actor's divorced parents flew to the island to try to help. Later, Miller showed friends an intensely awkward video he'd made on the tearful family reunion. They laughed as they queued it up. He was like, isn't this the most fucked up shit you've ever seen? Says someone who was there. The source says that Miller has bragged about pushing their father in the wake of the divorce. He was like, nobody's ever been treated as badly as I've treated Bob Miller in the past year. He was like, I think it's going to make us ultimately much closer in the future. This is all disturbing, folks. I mean, this is beyond disturbing, especially you don't assault your damn parents, father, mother, or anything. You just don't do that. And pushing is assault. The source says the situation is similar to what many people who have spent time with the actor have experienced. The way I describe it is, it's like you're in a non-consensual emotional BDSM relationship with Ezra. Another source in Hawaii asked whether he ever witnessed any altercations involving Miller. Cuts to the chase even quicker. Every interaction with Ezra is an altercation. A hornet's nest in July 2022, Vermont. Folks, this is, how much more of this is there? Holy cripe. Okay, so we're getting down to the wire, thank God. What's good? Anna was doing an Instagram live from Miller's farm since she joined Miller. She and others in the strange caravan had been the subject of social media attacks, and she wanted to tell her side of the story. Ezra fucking saved my life, she said. She'd been stripping to pay the bills and had started an OnlyFans account. Oh my God. She'd never even had enough money to buy diapers, she added. Now y'all want to call Ezra a cult leader, she said. Before she could go on, a small voice chimed in off screen, Mom? And in early August, after the police were dispatched to the mountain with the order to transfer Anna's children to the state, the actor began working with a publicist specializing in crisis management. Though Miller has interfaced with police in the last 3 precincts in an array of arrests, or in at least 3 precincts in an array of arrests, the actor's legal problems through good luck or good lawyering have mostly gone poof. Vanity Fair has seen one non-disclosure agreement and heard of a handful of others in what 3 sources describe as a whack-a-mole style legal strategy of paying off alleged victims. Miller declined to comment. No charges were pressed in Iceland. In Hawaii, Miller paid a $500 fine after pleading no contest to a disorderly conduct charge related to the karaoke arrest, and as part of the plea deal where other charges were dropped, other allegations in Hawaii about Miller hurling a chair at a woman and breaking into a couple's home, shouting obscenities, stealing a passport, and other legal documents were subsequently dropped. This person has had no accountability. Most of the stuff was dropped, and all he had to do was pay a little bit of money. A source close to the couple refused to comment, but warned Vanity Fair, don't poke a hornet's nest because one stung a few people. Miller is scheduled to appear in Vermont court on September 26 for an arraignment on a felony burglary charge related to an alleged breaking and entering and theft of alcohol. Miller's representative says the actor was cooking with his mother, needed rice wine, and grabbed that and another bottle of wine from the home of a close childhood friend. The rep says Miller did not realize that the friend didn't want to be friends anymore. The restraining order in Massachusetts concerning the non-binary 12-year-old boy enforced through June of 2023, according to the source close to this situation. So yeah, just because you're not aware of something does not give you the right to break into somebody's home. It doesn't. You still ask. You still knock and shit. And then you don't steal their alcohol. The actor's rep dismisses the allegation, saying Ezra's lack of interest clearly upset a disappointed fan when they would not engage with the fan or her daughter. The local police department confirmed it as an active case involving Miller and a 12-year-old based on 3 interactions the child had with the actor in April, May, and June of this year. The actor had not been charged with any crimes relating to his children, despite being concerned, and his husband, the polygamist, still believes that the integrity of the connection he made with Miller and is still wearing the gold line ring that the actor gave him. Online, Miller's fans battle negative headlines on the star's behalf. People who have spoken out against Miller on record or supported their alleged crimes, or his alleged crimes, have been attacked and doxxed on Twitter. I know Johnny Depp has a lot of fans and stuff, says a person close to Miller who claimed that Miller's fans are even more dedicated. People devote their time to do this at a time when it is needed. In early August, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav told investors that he was bullish on The Flash and that the movie would go forward with 2023 theatrical release. The Hollywood Reporter, however, reported that Warner Brothers had discussed scrapping the film. 4 days later, Miller released their contrite statement about addressing the complex mental health issues. The notion that The Flash was at risk was a wake-up call, says the actor's rep. Miller and the CAA agent even made a trip to the studio Burbank, California, headquarters, to apologize for the negative PR in persons and express renewed commitment. The actor is now said to be working with producers on The Flash to shoot additional scenes. Yeah, it was also revealed in another Vanity Fair article that the negative press didn't concern Miller at all. As I did a video on that before, basically proving that his apologies are full of shit. And I still maintain that, even after reading this article here. For years, he's convinced me that all our friends that I was abusive. I didn't know the term gaslight back then, and I was emotionally fucked up for years. Oh my God, how much more? Jeez. Okay. Some friends say Miller was so creative with the truth in the past and so cavalier about getting mental health treatment that they had a hard time taking the statement seriously. If he is going through therapy, says one, he's just acting through it. But Miller's spokesperson insists they are taking the therapy seriously, and treatment very seriously. Many people hope that's true. Mary Harron, American Psycho, directed the actor for 3 days when they played a young Salvatore Dali in Dollyland. He was very professional and nice to everybody. She has told VF, There was no trouble or a sign of trouble on set, so it was very upsetting and terrible to read what happened later. Hopefully, he is getting the help for what sounds like a very, very serious break. It doesn't matter how talented someone is, if he's done anything wrong, he has to face it. Clearly, this is not just a young star acting out. It seems like something that needs a serious intervention, which I hope has happened. As this story went to press, Vanity Fair exchanged messages with Miller's former fiancée, Erin, who asked to be identified by her first name and whom the actor was dating when they began playing The Flash in 2016. The Ezra I knew wasn't violent or physically abusive toward anyone, she says. To think back is painful because we had a deep love and he was good to me. But she does remember darkness after the breakup. For years, he convinced me all our friends that I was abusive. But looking back, I would be calling out his disrespect and he wouldn't take responsibility and just call me abusive because of my reaction. More victimhood, or more playing the victim, essentially, folks. I could have handled it better. I didn't know the term gaslight back then. I was emotionally fucked up for years. She says that Miller broke up with her after hiring a spiritual advisor who told the actor that she was a parasite. Wow. When the allegations of Miller being abusive to others surfaced, she admits she was hit with a sick relief. Maybe I wasn't the abusive one after all. Erin's feelings are complicated now. I can make excuses for him all day, but I don't want to anymore, she says. The illusions of grandeur needed to be called out. I will love Ezra always, and I don't want him to continue down this dark road. Additional reporting by Anthony Bresnikan and Savannah Walsh. So yeah, that is the article, folks, and by God, was it a long one. How long have we been going? Over an hour discussing this thing. He definitely faked his apology. Actually, is a non-apology. Actually, it's a non-apology. Yeah, you're right. It is. I want to bang my head against the wall. I don't blame you, man. How the hell did he even break in? Good question. Questions from the chat, folks. It's really frustrating to see people defending him for the past year. It really is, yeah. I think he's into Aleister Crowley and black magic stuff. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, Ezra Miller is a very deeply scarred and tainted individual. Honestly, I hope he does get the help he needs. But this man has done a lot of abuse towards women. He is proven to be a danger to women. And while many people are saying, oh, that's not what Ezra is, and you can defend all this crap as much as you want, but there's evidence of him doing this stuff. And there is a pattern of behavior here that he needs to get help or do time for. This man has never had to do anything in the way of jail time. He needs to be put in jail. Maybe it might give him a lesson that he needs to learn. I mean, honestly, it is absolutely disturbing that this person has not been arrested and put in jail. Habitual offenders should not be allowed bail, should not be allowed to be released to the public again or until they have done the time needed. Yes, have your due process, but also acknowledge that a person who is constantly reoffending doesn't care. As far as I am concerned, Ezra Miller is still a danger to society. His apology to people is fake as fuck. And honestly, I think he does need a little bit of jail time in order to have some real accountability. Anyway, folks, that is going to be the stream. That is going to be the video. Thank you to 6L6 and Mike Jackson for coming on in. Thank you to the others who have come on in to listen to the stream. Looks like the internet is going a little wonky right now. Sorry for that. But yes. Hold on. It does seem that Ezra Miller does need to do jail time. He needs to be held accountable. And people dropping the charges all over the place doesn't help. But yes, thank you so much for everybody tuning in. If you like this video, please share it out. Please smash the like button. These things help get the channel noticed, and I am trying to get my channel noticed. I'm trying to get it out there so that more people can understand the controversies of Hollywood and that these celebrities may not be as squeaky clean as everybody thinks. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Orange Hat Reviews. Stay humble.